Hello and welcome to the Days of Yore. Today we're at the Big Bill Dolan house on location to tell you a little bit about this structure, well known here in the community of Nelson, and a little bit about the Dolan family that lived here in the late part of the 19th century and the early part of the 20th century. So first off, I would like to thank Chris and Joanne for allowing us into their home to do this episode. So we're really grateful to be able to show this unique perspective on this very unique house. So my sources today come from the Dictionary of Miramichi Biography, a little bit from the newspapers of the day, and also from Historic Homes of Canada. So with that, let's begin. So the house itself was completed in 1910. It took 3 years of construction. It's a two-story home with a third-story Queen Anne tower. It boasts a number of interesting features with its verandas, its rails, and all of its gingerbread made out of white pine. It has a sandstone foundation and a dugout cellar as well. So it's probably very well known to anybody who's traveling along St. Patrick's Drive here in Nelson. It towers above most of the other houses, and is definitely a very interesting, very interesting piece of waterfront property here, harkening back to the days of lumbering. So with that, then maybe we'll get into William Dolan, also known as Big Bill, who himself was an employee and a manager of lumbering operations along the Miramichi River. So he got his start actually away from the community in Rishabukto, where he worked for the McLeod family, but eventually came to work for the Tim Lynch sawing company here in Miramichi in Chatham Head. So throughout the 1880s, Big Bill Dolan was in the woods, managing lumbering operations for the Lynch firm and providing saw logs to the mill. So I recall that during my research for the book that was written about St. Patrick's Church for the 125th anniversary of its opening in 1894, I read a number of articles in the Union Advocate that talked about the Lynch sawmill firm, and also a little bit about one incident in the late 1880s where a certain individual, actually a couple of individuals, a group of men in the employ of the Lynch firm were lost in the woods for a number of days and actually broke up, and several of them were found, but the search was ongoing for others. So again, certainly a position with a great deal of risk in those days, even obviously for the workers themselves, but even for a manager like Mr. Dolan. So Mr. Dolan stayed with the firm even after Tim Lynch's death in 1908 and the sale of his company to the Frasers. He later went to work for the Rundle Company in Barty Bogue, where he finished out his working career. So again, the Big Bill Dolan obviously did very well for himself as a manager of lumbering operations in a number of different communities. And again, by 1910 was able to build this home. Again, a testament to his life's work in a lot of respects. Interestingly enough, his sons would go on to have very interesting lives themselves. Two of his sons, Raymond and Harold, would go on to be doctors and would study medicine and leave the community here in Nelson. interestingly enough, Clarence Dolan, who remained here at the house after his adolescence, was a veteran of the First World War. He joined the Canadian Expeditionary Force in 1918 with the Siege Battery, but unfortunately suffered from fever and impetigo for a large part of the fall of 1918 and was demobilized in May of 1919. So his time overseas was very brief, and unfortunately, like a lot of soldiers in that particular war, was shortened even further by illness. When he was demobilized, he received a payment of $320 for his service and returned here to Nelson, where he would become the postmaster here in Nelson for a number of years, between the 1930s and into the 1940s. And as I say, he lived here at the Dolan home. Another brother was Everett Dolan. And Everett Dolan is interesting, of course, not only because of his choice of career. He went on and became a geology student at McGill University in Montreal, but also because earlier on in his time, Everett was the pitcher for the Nelson Vics, and is seen in this photo of the Nelson Vics, who won the provincial senior men's championship in a game that was played on Beaubears Island. So Everett, again, as I understand it, was the pitcher for that team. Tragically, Everett lost his life in a boating accident in the Lachine Rapids. As I understand it, he was trying to save one of his fellows and unfortunately drowned in the attempt. We see here a mass card, copy of a mass card, that was purchased by his fellow ball team members so that services would be held in his remembrance following his death. So obviously the Dolan family left a pretty big mark on the community and on the larger region, and would continue to do so for some time. The house eventually left the control of the Dolan family in the 1990s. A certain individual came to own it, who was a carpenter and did a lot of work restoring the structure. It had been an apartment building for some time in the 1970s, 1980s, but in the 1990s it was restored by a carpenter, and as we see in some of the photos that you may have already seen in the episode, and some of the ones you may be seeing now, you can see the stately nature that resulted from that restoration. Today, the home belongs to Chris and Joanne. Chris, of course, you will see as one of our boat captains, and will be our boat captain in the seasons to come. I guess if you want to know more about the house, do feel free to speak to him when and if you're able to come and visit us on the island. So I think for now we'll leave it there. The big Bill Dolan house, certainly notable just in its view, but of course even more notable the more you learn about it. As with so many things in history, I dare say. So if you're enjoying these videos, do please give them a like, subscribe to the channel. If you know other people that might be interested in this kind of content, do please share it with them so that they also can see it and hopefully circulate it to those around them. It does us a great deal of help the more broadly this information can be circulated. And of course, for those people who are able, please consider the patron options on our Patreon site in the description below. Again, all levels now receiving exclusive content, and there's so much to see there as well. So next week, Ken will be back with The Living Island. I will see you in 2 weeks. And once again, I've enjoyed the time that we spent together. For the Days of Yore, I'm Dr. Sean McCarthy. Thanks so much.